showed how people have become successful of the American dream, coming to America and then elected to the U.S. House to represent Indiana. Congresswoman Spartz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all of your work. So I will ask, first we'll start with our attorney, just have a few practical questions, Mr. Reichler. I came from discussions of Ukrainian aid, and regardless what is said, majority of my Republican colleagues want to make sure that we do deliver better weapons and faster weapons, and hopefully we can work on these issues on a bipartisan basis. But definitely with all of the fiscal challenges, we have a discussions and how we're going to be paying for all of that. So my question is for you, and that's been kind of socialized as ideas to actually use some of these confiscated assets to pay for, because ultimately Russia signed an agreement, Budapest Memorandum, which actually, it wasn't guarantees but assurances. We signed it too, and UK, which actually with today's new foreign minister, he was very convincing and to really support Ukraine. It was great to have our UK counterparts here. They've been doing a great job, trying to organize Europe with all of the challenges that Europe has. But, it's been, a lot of, discussion how to do that. And I wanted to just to get your thoughts on that. There is a way, and from a, legal view, because some of my colleagues raised due process issues, and, how could that be used to, to pay for some of the weapons transfer that we really need to do urgently to Ukraine?
Yes, thank you for your question, Congresswoman. Russia, like all states, is bound by principles of international law, including those set forth in the United Nations Charter. It's a member of the United Nations. And one of the most fundamental principles of international law is the prohibition on launching wars of aggression against another sovereign state, and the prohibition on acquiring the territory of another state by force. Now, Russia has violated many more principles of international law, but let me just stop here with those two. These are considered such egregious violations of international law. They are violations of what we call peremptory norms of international law, from which no state is permitted to derogate, that they have what we lawyers call erga omnes effects. That means the violations of these fundamental principles are considered so egregious that every state is considered a victim of this wrongful conduct. And therefore, every state has the right to take countermeasures against the wrongdoer, in this case, the Russian Federation. Those countermeasures can include measures that ordinarily would not be considered lawful in the absence of wrongful conduct by the other state. But where, as I've said, Russia has committed such egregiously wrongful conduct, such egregious breaches of the fundamental principles of international law, every state, not just Ukraine and those that have most directly suffered, but every state, including the United States, has the right to take appropriate, proportionate countermeasures against Russia. And those countermeasures could include, as provided in the Repo Act, not only the freezing of Russia's state assets, which already has been done, but the seizure of those assets and their transfer to Ukraine to offset the compensation which Russia already owes Ukraine.
But I'm talking about for us
to
pay, because I have just a minute left, for us to pay for our weapons transfer to Ukraine, so that we can transfer more and faster and better weapons. Is that something for United States to use this to pay, to do the pay?
Well, I think the United States can do what you are suggesting under two theories. One, that it is injured because all states are injured. Also, the United States can claim that it is directly injured because of the costs the United States has incurred in helping Ukraine defend itself.
Indeed,
against
we
this
did. I
aggression.
think it's important, and unfortunately, you know, Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons, and now a lot of people forgot. Just briefly, I know that I'm almost out of time, maybe Ambassador, because there is a challenge. We talked with some officials on the executive branch, and Europeans kind of struggling with that issue. And so can you help me? What we will, because me and Chairman and some other colleagues, we have a lot of discussions and meetings with Europeans. How could we help to make sure that, and that's what State Department kind of struggling to get Europeans on board with this issue?
Well, I think passing the Repo Act would help. The Europeans may be waiting for American leadership. A sign of congressional unity through passage of the Repo Act would strengthen the administration's hand in working with the Europeans, both the EU, the Commission, and national states, saying, we have moved, now you must. We should work together. The principle of solidarity applies, but often in the, since the beginning of the Russo-Ukraine war, we've seen that American leadership can help crystallize European decisions. So I think they are looking, my own discussions with the Europeans suggest that they're wading through the legal issues, but they're waiting for us, and passage of Repo would help.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Spartz.